The autumn rain hammered the windshield like 1,000 tiny fists as Sarah drove deeper into the Adirondacks. Her GPS had given up an hour ago, swallowed by the thickening pines that clawed at the sky. She was 32, a graphic designer from Brooklyn who'd inherited this godforsaken cabin from an uncle she barely remembered, a man who'd vanished into these woods 20 years back, leaving only rumors and a deed in his wake. A fresh start, her therapist had called it. A place to grieve her husband's car accident 6 months prior. Sarah gripped the wheel tighter, the wipers slashing futilely against the downpour. The road narrowed to a gravel scar, and finally, there it was, the cabin. Squat and weathered, its cedar planks sagging under moss and regret, flanked by birches that twisted like arthritic fingers. She killed the engine, the sudden silence roaring louder than the storm. Grabbing her duffel and a flashlight, Sarah dashed to the porch. The key stuck in the lock, as if the house itself hesitated to let her in. Inside, the air was thick with mildew and something sweeter, like overripe apples rotting in the walls. She flicked the light switch, nothing. Of course. The place ran on a cranky generator out back, but she'd deal with that tomorrow. For now, a single lantern from her bag cast jittery shadows across the room. The cabin was one open space, a kitchenette with a chipped enamel sink, a sagging couch by a stone fireplace, and a loft bedroom reached by a ladder that groaned like old bones. Sarah unpacked quickly, her hands trembling from the cold. She built a fire with logs stacked by the hearth dry, at least, and warmed a can of soup over the flames. As she ate, staring into the licking orange glow, she noticed the scratches on the mantel. Not random gouges, but deliberate, names carved shallow into the wood. Elias. Ruth. Miriam. Her uncle's family? She shook it off, blaming the isolation. The rain pattered on like distant applause, and exhaustion pulled her up the ladder to the loft. The bed was made up with threadbare quilts that smelled of lavender and dust. She burrowed in, the wind howling outside like a beast circling its prey. Sleep came fitfully, fractured by dreams of her husband's face in the rearview mirror, mouthing words she couldn't hear. Then, a creak, not the house settling, but deliberate, like a footfall on the stairs below. Sarah bolted upright, heart slamming. The lantern downstairs had burned low, its flame a dying ember. She peered over the loft's edge, squinting into the gloom. Nothing. Just the fire's embers pulsing like a slow heartbeat. Wind, she whispered, lying back down. But the creak came again, closer this time, ascending the ladder one rung at a time. Her breath caught. The ladder was empty, shrouded in shadow. Yet the wood popped and sighed under invisible weight. By morning, the storm had cleared, leaving a world of dripping leaves and fog that clung to the trees like spectral veils. Sarah told herself it was nothing, old houses, old nerves. She cranked the generator to life with a sputter of diesel, and the lights hummed on, revealing more details she'd missed, faded photographs on the walls, yellowed with age. A stern man with a beard, her Uncle Elias, no doubt standing beside a woman in a high-necked dress, their hands clasped over a little girl's shoulder. Miriam. The girl's eyes were unnaturally bright, almost accusatory, staring straight out from the glass. Needing air, Sarah laced up her boots and stepped outside. The woods pressed in close, a labyrinth of ferns and fallen trunks carpeted in moss. She followed a faint trail behind the cabin, the crunch of her steps the only sound. It led to a clearing, where a rusted swing set rusted amid wildflowers, out of place, wrong. As if children had played here recently. She touched the chains, they were cold, slick with dew. A gust stirred the air, carrying a faint giggle, high and tinkling, like glass chimes in a breeze. Sarah froze. The giggle faded, swallowed by the rustle of leaves. "Hello?" she called, her voice thin. Only echoes answered, mocking her. Back inside, she tried to work, sketching on her tablet, the glow of Fragile Island in the dim room. But focus slipped. The fire popped, and she glanced up to see the photographs had shifted. Elias's portrait now hung crooked, the woman's empty, as if plucked from the wall. "What the hell?" Sarah muttered, crossing to fix it. The nail was loose, but when she lifted the frame, her fingers brushed something taped to the back, a yellowed newspaper clipping. Local family vanishes in blizzard, no traces found. The date, January 15, 2005. Elias, Ruth, and 8-year-old Miriam had gone missing during a snowstorm. Search parties combed the woods for weeks, finding only the uncle's truck abandoned on the road, doors flung open, keys in the ignition. Theories abounded: wolves, exposure, foul play. But locals whispered of the hollow depression in the earth nearby, where the ground never thawed, and shadows moved on moonless nights. Sarah's skin prickled. She crumpled the clipping and tossed it into the fire, watching it curl to ash. Distraction. That's all she needed. She boiled water for tea, the kettle whistling like a kettle scream on the stove. As steam rose, she heard it again, the giggle, faint but unmistakable, from the loft. Her tea sloshed as she climbed the ladder, pulse thundering. The bed was rumpled, as if someone had sat there, leaving an indentation like a small body. On the pillow, a single wildflower, pale blue, bruised petals lay like an offering. Not from her bouquet. These woods didn't bloom this late. Dusk fell early, the sun bleeding red through the canopy. Sarah barred the door with a chair, the bolts sliding home with a satisfying thunk. She lit every candle she had, their flames dancing like wary sentinels. The wind picked up, rattling the windows, and with it came the whispers. At first, she thought it was the trees scraping branches, but no, the voices were layered, intimate, seeping through the walls like smoke. "Mama? Mama, where are you?" A child's voice, plaintive, edged with desperation. Sarah clamped her hands over her ears, rocking on the couch. "It's cold, Mama. The snow hurts." The whispers grew, overlapping. Papa said to wait. But the man in the white coat came. Elias's voice, gravelly, pleading. "He took her, Ruth. He took our girl." She stumbled to the window, peering into the black. The swing set swayed gently, though the air was still. And there, in the fog-shrouded clearing, a shape, small, pale, in a sodden dress, swinging higher and higher. Miriam. Sarah's breath fogged the glass. The girl turned her head, impossibly far, her neck twisting like a doll's. Eyes like voids, milky and endless, locked onto the cabin. "Come play, Sarah," the whisper slithered through the cracks. "Papa's waiting. He says you're like Mama now. All alone." Terror rooted her. She backed away, knocking over a candle. Wax spilled, flames leaping to the rug. Sarah stomped them out, gasping, but the whispers swelled into cries, shrieks of wind and sorrow that shook the rafters. Footsteps thundered downstairs. No, not downstairs. All around. The ladder creaked, rungs bending under weight. She fled to the kitchen, grabbing a knife from the drawer, its blade dull but reassuring. The air turned frigid, frost spiderwebbing the windows from the inside. "Why did you leave us?" Ruth's voice, soft as silk over razors. "The storm took us, but you drove away." The door rattled, the chair splintering as something immense shouldered against it. Not a child, not anymore. Sarah slashed wildly at shadows, her knife carving empty air. The whispers coalesced into a roar, "Join us." In the hollow. The lights flickered, died. In the dark, she felt them icy fingers brushing her ankle, tugging her toward the floorboards that now yawned open like a grave. She screamed, bolting for the back door, flinging it wide. The woods rushed in, branches whipping her face as she ran blind into the night. Behind her, the cabin exhaled a sigh, windows glowing faintly blue. Sarah's flashlight beam caught the clearing, the swing set empty, chains dripping not dew, but blood. She veered toward the road, lungs burning, but the trail twisted, doubled back on itself. The trees leaned in, murmuring her name, Sarah, Mama, Ruth, until direction dissolved. Dawn found her at the hollow's edge, a yawning pit, rimed with eternal ice despite the warming sun. Her truck was there, doors open, keys glinting. But she didn't remember driving it. Footprints circled it, small, bare, leading into the snowless frost. And on the hood, a wildflower, petals unfurling like tiny mouths, whispering, "Stay." Sarah never left. The locals still search sometimes, finding only the cabin, fires eternally banked, quilts folded neat in the loft. And if you listen close on autumn nights, when the rain drums the roof, you might hear the swing creak. Or a giggle. Or your own name, called from the dark.